So data science is different at different companies, but how? What makes it different at one company versus another? Well, the first main difference you can see from size. When you have a startup, most of the people in that startup have bought into data science and machine learning at the very earliest, at the seed stage, when there's less than 10 employees. You don't usually get a data science department if everyone doesn't really see the value of data science in a company that small. But you're going to be the one driving the majority of decisions about how data science gets done. You're sort of the end-to-end soup to nuts person that handles the whole workflow. There may be somebody there for you to integrate with, where your model has to work with another piece of the product. In some cases, there isn't. It's crazy. You can have somebody who's a front-end person, and then it's you, and that's it. It's a data scientist and someone who's putting a UI on the front of whatever it is that you're building and serving inference straight to that. It can be that crazy in a startup, and you'll spend 90% of your time just building, and you have absolute and complete control over everything. And that's kind of cool. But in a big company, some of the company might not even know you're there. And that's crazy. There are companies that are so large and so spread out geographically. You may not have people that are even aware that the company has a data scientist. And so you spend a lot more time as a data scientist in a big company working with your team, but also in a lot of cases, talking to other groups and interfacing with other organizations, some of whom have never been, even if you have a mature data science organization within the business, some of them may never have worked on a data science project, have never worked with anything that was driven by a model. They may have a very low data maturity level in their organization. And so you spend a whole lot more time working with users and working in a team environment where you're not expected to know everything, but you're a whole lot more involved in the business, especially if, and this is another difference between businesses, you work in a technology first company versus a non-technology first company. So what's the difference? Well, like Facebook's a technology first company. Walmart didn't used to be a technology first company, but they're slowly migrating from just a retail big box store to an e-commerce giant. And so they are more of a software first company. And a software first company, the emphasis is, especially from the business model's perspective, the emphasis is on leveraging technology to make the business more and more money. And so technology is a core component of the business model. But in other businesses, it may not be. Technology may be off to the side, and you may spend a ton of time having to work your way into other business units and convince them that data science is something that can help them operate better. In many cases, you're figuring out the requirements, you're coming up with the business needs. They don't even know what they need you to do. You're coming to them with proposals and saying, hey, we could do this and it would make you or save you a ton of money. And you are more of a salesperson for yourself. You are your own pitch person. And that's part of the data science job, is going out, not only working with other groups in the company, but also in some cases gathering business needs and persuading them to do this project that is going to make them a lot of money. That's a completely different skill set than in a technology first company, where the projects are probably very well defined and laid out on a product roadmap, and they're more given to you, where this is what we're going to be working on. You may have a good amount of latitude, especially in a smaller team, that in even a technology first company, you have a lot of latitude on how you build, what solutions, where you get your data from, and so on. Whereas in a larger technology first company, you have a larger team around you, and those team members are going to have different roles. And so the piece that the piece that you work on, is going to be something that you're an absolute expert at. It's going to be your area of focus. You're going to own it, and you're going to be an expert. You're going to get really good at this one particular piece of the job. The benefit is you have this whole team to support you. So you have all this time to focus on what it is that you do to bring value to the project. Whereas, like I said, in a non-technology first company or in just a smaller team, you may have to do a whole lot more, a whole lot different type of role, and you may have a whole lot more persuasion than actual hands-on R&D and development. So maturity definitely plays a role into this as well. You can be a technology first company, but if the technology group that you work with isn't very mature, if their processes aren't very solid, which it happens in a lot of startups, they grow very quickly and there isn't time to put all those processes and practices in place. If you are in an immature shop, it could be the Wild West. You could be given everything and here you go, it's all yours. And you may find yourself, in order to actually do your job, having to build all of this process, all of these best practices, and getting other groups to play along. Again, you're a facilitator working with other teams and other organizations to make delivery and cadence more successful, more predictable. So what gets into production actually works and works the way that it needs to, fits the business needs. That's kind of a weird thing. Like, they don't teach you processes in college, do they? But if you're working in a less mature development environment or development focused company, you could be fixing any number of process related problems and bringing best practices into not just data science. You could be actually fixing some software development issues too. It's a weird place to be in, to have to not just do your job, but build all of the frameworks from a process, sometimes even strategy standpoint, that allow you to be successful. Because without them, you really can't deliver value in the way that you need to justify your existence. And you can be set up to fail if you aren't able to successfully drive those types of improvements. Whereas in a very mature organization, you're going to have an exceptionally well-detailed, Microsoft, exceptionally well-documented data science process. You're going to know your job very well. You're going to have a solid framework of exactly how it is that you produce value. Microsoft understands their value stream very well, and so do many other mature development organizations within businesses. One thing they don't tell you, you can work for a satellite office of a larger company, and the large company can be extraordinarily mature, but that satellite office isn't. It's craziness. You can sometimes be working at that big company and then have to interface with that satellite office as well. And all of a sudden, it's like you're working at a less mature company. And that's the interesting thing about big companies. When they start acquiring these little companies, they don't necessarily send in a team that manages the merger and manages sort of melding the two companies together so that it removes all of the inefficiencies that may stick around for years after the merger. And you may find yourself working at a satellite office for a large company where that satellite office used to be a small company in and of itself. And it's weird. It's like you're working in, sometimes the main company looks down on you. And so you have a hard time driving any sort of larger scale organizational changes because they look at you and say, oh, you're just part of that office. And so this is where, they talk about politics. Some companies are highly political, and it's very difficult to get buy-in and consensus when agendas are constantly conflicting with each other and business goals aren't well understood and individual organizational goals are not well aligned towards those business goals. And you can find yourself in a political nightmare where to make the changes that you need to make, or to get green lights for the projects that are going to return the most value to the business, you again may find yourself being more than just a data scientist. Now you're a salesman. Or you could work in an organization where everything is well-defined, well understood, processes are exceptionally mature, and the business understands their value stream. And so all you do all day is just that one role that you were hired for in the data science workflow, and you just get to focus on the work. So when you're looking for a job, think about each one of those aspects and make sure that the company you choose is actually going to be something that you enjoy, because there's more than just the work in some cases. There's more than just data science. And depending upon the company that you end up landing at, you could be doing a whole lot more than data science. You could be doing the entire data science, or you could be very, very focused in on something that you really, really enjoy doing.